Hi guys, and welcome to October, and yay, we are in Libra transit, so happy birthday to all Libras, and let's see what's going on. So really quick intro about astrological constellations and everything that we need to kind of like work on. Guys, do not forget to check your ascendant and check your moon sign, because that's sort of like going to give you different aspects of yourself. And of course, if this jives with you, you can contact me for the private reading. So let's see what is the biggie happening in the sky. And my astrology is really different. You know, nobody's going to tell me this is the way you need to do, because to me tarot is like so much more potent than astrology. So let's kind of like move into that. This week, both Mercury and in tarot, we have the Magician representing Mercury, so you can actually see the energy instead of just me telling you about Mercury. It's going to move into Scorpio, and that fiery Mars is actually moving in Libra. So Mercury is really, as you know, during Mercury retrograde, communication issues. So yes, it kind of like symbolizes how we talk and think, and how do we really, like, exchange things, how do we communicate, right, with each other, with ourselves, kind of like pulling things together. It kind of like really talks about what we do daily, talks about short trips, and also kind of like trade and commerce and exchanges like of that kind of like sort. Meanwhile, Mars, which actually it's not ruled by Emperor, oops, wrong, because Aries is kind of like ruler of Mars, but Mars really, and this is going to be hell of a reveal when I tell you. For those of you who know, you already know which card I'm going to pull. This actually is Mars card, Tower. And so Mars is basically all about energy. So when it kind of like occurs in our charts, it's kind of like boosting the activity of this area. So let's put it in perspective, because Mars is now showing up during Libra transition, and this is Libra card. In the background, we just have Saturn that goes direct, that went direct, and so now, if you're on my newsletter, you knew that we actually shifted to new timelines. It was like few things simultaneously happening, and if you felt last month being kind of heavy, and you didn't know what's going on, and you felt like you're climbing the walls and you're just like falling flat down, there was a reason for it. Please sign for my newsletter so you will be in the know. So when we kind of like have the Mars coming through, it's kind of like boosting the chart in our in that area, right? Activity of that area. So we are going to start feeling shift in our daily habits and conversations, and we will become more active in kind of like that area where sort of like that Mars joins the sun, wherever your sun is, and just kind of like, you need to remember the secret of life is really having low expectations. With Saturn kind of like that went direct, there are like no procrastination anymore. I think summer was, most of us had the excuse it was the summer, of course, for those of us in northern hemisphere, but in the southern hemisphere, winter was excuse. It's winter, I don't feel like it's sluggish. So we both kind of had the same excuse. But this kind of like all ended on September 18th at 13 degrees Capricorn, and this Saturn is the Lord of Karma, and it kind of like does feel Capricorn is his ruler, but it's almost like the middle finger, right, when it is reversed, right? So retrograde motion is basically time when karma is sorted out, because this is the planet of karma. And so therefore Saturn retrograde is a double dose of that karma. So if you guys didn't get karma reading with me, it's very intense. It really tells you, hey, this is what you did in past life, this is what you promised to yourself. With all the wisdom, you're going to kind of like drag in this one, you want to resolve it, you know, like when we can, oh, today I'm going to really kind of like handle this. That's kind of like, it's the entire life chart. So when and what was happening, it kind of like felt that past and present and future kind of like blurred together. And if you have been in the past and kind of like dealing with that, you know, events occurred to teach us a lesson. And Saturn is generally ugh, difficult ruler. It's kind of like, did you learn it? I really need you to know. And when I ask you this question, when I wake you up from a dream, you will get it. Not only that you're going to tell me blah, blah, blah. So the lessons that have been associated with Saturn retrograde kind of like really relate to our thoughts and our words. Some of us decided, hey, you know, I'm going to communicate better. I'm not going to be quick to curse. And you're going to see that people will be cleaning their language. People who didn't clean the language, who continues to kind of like be mean and jump quickly to conclusions and to judgments, these people stayed on different old timelines. So what does that mean? That means you still have issues, you didn't resolve them. The bad part is going to last 12 years. So ask yourself if you really shifted or you didn't shift it, or you're just simply repeating the old patterns from the past. This in particular is going to be especially challenging if you have history of teasing or verbally abusing people. And this is becoming very prevalent. All of us kind of a little bit guilty of that. Internet is like a sneaky place where you just want to, you dislike my nail polish, you dislike something, I'm going to just tell you. We need to kind of pull back with Saturn, because Saturn is telling us, really, is this really who you are? And now turning direct is giving us a much brighter outlook, especially for making really important decisions about your home, your family, and relationships. So ta-da, everything is here. And when we are going through Libra transit, it's really talking about a major transformation. So this is where we are, almost like, think about it, we have building our case, we kind of like made advances, we kind of like are understanding the areas of life which you kind of like need to do it. The Tower is saying, okay, this is collapsing, and we need to collapse certain areas of our lives and say rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. But then, you know, Mercury is saying to us, you can do it. You have all the tools. You have been through all the lessons. You just need to pull it together, and you need to detangle anything that has been going on. Look at how powerful this month will be. So let's just jump in and see what is particularly important for your own sign. Hello, my Aquarius. My computer started to act up when I started to come to your signs. So let's see what that means, right? So let's see. You guys, Aries, so October is your annual relationship month. So even though you kind of like feel, oh, I'm tired, you shouldn't be really tired, because this is kind of like falling in your 7th house. And 7th house is basically, I love you, I want to marry you, that kind of like ideas are getting through your head. So keeping in mind that we are also having that Sun in Libra. So this is kind of combining together until October 23rd. And to top it off, your ruling planet, very ambitious Mars, like there is like no ifs or buts about Mars, is in Libra from October 4th to November 19th. Long transition. So now you're saying, okay, Kat, blah, 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 right? So let me translate this. Relationship rocket fuel. It's just a kind of freaking lift off, right? So it also could mean that an exciting contract, or maybe some kind of like form of business alliance, can really kind of like start to like really manifest, or it's going in a high gear. And also, I really think that you, at this particular month, shouldn't really spend too much time to think it over. You're definitely not generally the sign that you do that. Just make sure you have all the stuff that you need, and then press the pedal, right? So, now, Libras are more or less love and light, kind of like vibes, right? And Mars is your cosmic ruler, and it always has your back. But he, when in Libra, he's in detriment position, right? So just think about it. Mars is mythological warrior, right? And Libra is like that sign of peace. So they're kind of like very strange bedfellows, right? So their combined energy, I'll just make this more neat, because I had to take everything out and reconnect everything, and I'm still keeping my fingers crossed, and maybe I should even record this. Let me do that. Let me start recording just in case, because trust me, Mercury retrograde is around the corner. I'll be addressing that shortly. So you guys, you know, you're going to see with this strange combination of Mars that people might be a little bit of passive aggressive, and for you, for your temperament, this is one of those things that you really have a hard time accepting, especially when somebody's passive. You're going to kind of like push them in aggressive state, which is basically kind of like a textbook what it tells you how to deal with people like that, right? So also I would probably say that maybe you're trying to kind of like seal some kind of deal, right? Maybe you're trying to kind of like because October 7th, when this kind of Libra Sun kind of like goes in a square with Saturn, which I addressed in the introduction, which is in Capricorn, and Capricorn is 2 houses down, so it's your 10th house of challenges, regulations, and authority. That's where if you're trying to get something signed, you might run into, oh, you need to do that and you need to do that, all this kind of policies and protocols and bureaucrats. So keep that in mind, right? You simply cannot kind of like sweep it under the rug and kind of like work it out. So maybe I would just try to see if there is some kind of a compromise in this kind of like situation, right? Okay, so let's see what we have. We have 6 of Earth. Lovely. So that is really talking about that stability and ability to kind of like feel generous and ability to feel strong. Then you have Strength. I know some of you might be dealing with a Leo or with fire sign, and you have Sky Kitten. So this is interesting energy actually, because it tells me that you have had somebody on your eye. There's like somebody who kind of caught your eye, and it almost looks like you're very willing to go after that person. But this sometimes can also indicate intrusive quality about this kind of like dynamics, right? Where maybe you are like obsessing over the person, maybe you're just like blurring things out. Hello, you're Aries, right? And they're like, hello, you know, especially when you have a new relationship and you feel really good about it and the other person feels good about it, but then you're kind of like, well, you know, yeah, I'm going to introduce you to my parents, and the other person freaks out, just cold feet everything, right? So this is kind of like more or less very young air energy, which is really telling you that you really need to be strategic about things, right? So then we have Fire Queen. Ta-da! That would be you. Then we have 10 of Earth in the middle. I actually got a glimpse of that one. I was really happy about it. Ooh, we have 7 of Sky. Look at this underlying energy over here about Sky. Now, that is interesting, right? You will have lots of physical energy this time around. It's going to be different. So there's this demon cat. So there's a major that I told you that's basically Saturn that is really talking about. We have 5 of Sky. You got all the difficult Sky cards, or 5 of Swords, 7 of Swords. And then you have 9 of Earth, which is really nicely kind of like mirroring this card. So look at this. We have Earth diagonal over here. So Earth is really, really prominent in your chart over here, which is really, really good. It's kind of like one of those, and like this one as well. So it's going to be one of those months that is going to be featured prominently, kind of like you want things to work. You want things to work with your family. You want kind of like strong standing in everything, right? You want to develop strategy about everything you're doing in life, right? Almost like you're setting up your goals. This is a 10, and 10 with this freaking fireworks above, it really tells me that almost like you really want to go all the way, right? Now, there is like one more kind of like issue, and I can even see that in your cards. It's astrologically, I think October 3rd like Pluto is very calculating, right? And Pluto ends, it's 5 months retrograde. It was through Capricorn that we see over here, right? And it is in the same zone of your chart. So you have to think back to basically right after your birthday. It started somewhere around April 24th, when Pluto has been kind of like reverting, backspinning through your 10th house of career and authority. And maybe you had some kind of like potholes that have been kind of like appearing in the road to success. You would just like flip and go into it, right? Because look at him. He's just looking at the ribbons. Look at him. So it is like a really cute attitude, but he is not really looking what he's going to step on, or he just like has one goal in mind and this is it. Give me the freaking ribbons kind of a thing, right? So strength is kind of like telling that there is like a certain quality that probably you had to develop, right? That you kind of like had to understand that the true power comes from within, like this head-on attitude that sometimes Aryan nature kind of like goes into, because you're the first sign, like you really need to resolve things, right? So getting from that point A to point Z is maybe kind of like being modified for you, going from A to J kind of like a thing, and then so on and so forth, right? Pluto is going to be very strong in your 10th house, which is public image, and how do you show to the world who you are. And it almost looks like that you have brand built, you have the certain image, right? You have how things are going to really work out, because this really tells me that it has been lots of patience. You have really worked on yourself here, patience and gentleness and compassion, and all these potholes that you like fell into it and broke your legs and fell flat on your face. You have realized, okay, you know what, I just need to move slower, I need to be generous, I need to be giving. Maybe there was a partner that you encountered in the past, maybe somebody with kids, or one or two kids, because look at here, the kitty is saying, come in here, there's like enough of food, and even kind of like you can step on my special chair. And then the kiddos are here as well. So this also to me can actually really talk about some form of a commitment. This also gives me not only Leo but Sagittarius in this particular things, as I said, also earth and air signs. And this really tells me that it kind of like felt that you wanted to be tamed. Maybe that's kind of like how it felt. You obtained some kind of like inner calm and courage and control and patience. And today it's living hell. I absolutely hate buzzing, and that's what happened. My computer stopped and it started to beep beep beep, which basically means video card, which basically scares me. I know I have to replace it. I just hope I can finish these monthlies before I do that, because it will be just, you know, tough to do it in the middle. So this is about kind of like getting into kind of completely new level of understanding yourself, right? As Fire Queen, it is you. It is like in full power. You're feeling it. It's really, really good. And this is going to get even better, because you need to look back to March 24th, right? So that was Aries new moon. And that was like clues of today what's going to happen. This is sort of like giving you the flavor of the month, if you wish, right? So whatever intentions you have set, whatever you have been thinking through, setting to the universe at the time back to where your birthday was, around at March 24th, right? It's coming out to the fruition right now. This is how it always works. Your new moon coming over here, it's always in the opposite, so it's always in that kind of like 7th house, right? So if you have been considering making a kind of like a major move, or there's like some kind of like super duper ambition that you have, this is the time. And it's 10. It is, this almost like to me looks like a lottery ticket, because this card is multi-layer card. Yeah, you can talk about getting together with someone. It could be a person that, you know, you kind of like put on a pedestal and getting together with this person. But at the same time, you're feeling this person on some kind of like level betrayed you. 7 of Sky. Look what's happening over here. Look. Well, this buddy here is opening his paws for everybody to come in. There's like more for everybody. Yes, I have plenty to share, and you can even share my residence. It's sort of like plenty, the land of plenty happening over here. Not so much here. The distraction of the kitty that got this, like, I mean, a little poor rodent, is just needed to be for somebody just to grab something, right? It's kind of like, okay, just watch the birds. I'm grabbing something under kind of like your nose, right? So that's something that you really do not tolerate, right? So this full moon that is going to happen right now is going to be square with Pluto in Capricorn, and that can mean that there is like some kind of authority, or there's like some kind of decision, or decision maker. Somebody will kind of like attach to you interpretation that is really not valid, right? Maybe somebody feels threatened by your approach. So you see, this is it. Like, I mean, going around with the sword, except the kitty doesn't have a sword in his particular deck, right? So you really need to kind of like step back and kind of like try to figure out why. You have already obtained the tools. You already know, like, slow and steady wins kind of like the race, right? So don't kind of like react in your standard way, they're freaking jealous, etc., etc. You know, no, just look like, what is the self-interest that basically is hiding behind that, right? Because this clearly tells me that you need to represent something as a win-win situation. Somebody's feeling you are taking something away from them. Somebody's really feeling, well, you need to address what is in it for me, kind of a thing, which is really good in business, and it's also good advice in relationships, right? Because if you just have one partner, oh, just bring me the food, oh, I'm just watching the game with the guys, or just get me the beer, well, you know, honey, it's just for tonight, I'll do that for you, but your time never arrives. So this is saying that actually there is like a giving and sharing, giving and receiving, but sometimes, especially when it reverses, which luckily is not here, sometimes it just feels that just one person wants everything, and they're completely forgetting that tomorrow is another day, that there'll be more things that will be happening, right? So I really feel that, you know, there's going to be a need to address somebody in this particular thing. So be ready for that, because you have these 3 swords. Swords are not necessarily easy transit, because you might even be accused to be selfish. You might kind of like, as I said, being told that you betrayed me. There's like something that you really need to stop and pause and try to figure it out for your own good and for that person's good, because it could have been this like huge miscommunication. So this is about clarity. This is about, okay, what do I really want? When you have this clarity, it's much easier to organize. So in the kitchen, I'm going to put spices, but in the bedroom, I'm going to putting like my 90s, right? When they're mixing, it's kind of like a confusion that is really happening. So now you have like this 10 and 9 and a 6 of earth over here, right? So this is really telling me, again, it could be some kind of turbulence, and the turbulence is going to happen during Libra transit, because, you know, like, I mean, there is like that feeling that, hey, somebody took things that are belonging to me. So that's really what happens when kind of like Mars is kind of like escaping this way. With Demon Cat, which is a Capricorn, I really think this is kind of like possibly going to be shifting around the 23rd, when we are moving into Scorpio, which is your 8th house of intimacy. So intimacy, sometimes some people think intimacy is sex. Intimacy is jumping somebody's bones, which somebody who thinks like that need to be set down and explained, right? There is like a feeling over here, because look at here, we had the 6, so we had here, come here, but in this 5 we have F off. This is my territory. You do not belong here. People like you, the elites like you, the people, the Sphinx cats like you, they don't care about me like a street cat. They really don't. So off you go, right? And it's kind of like that full-fledged attack. It almost like it feels like that after the 23rd, you're really going to be very private. You're either going to focus on a few key relationships, or even you might just decide, hey, you know what, I'm really comfortable where I am. this all is actually very interesting because there are actually people in your life, 1, 2, 3 people that actually at some point can enter, right? And as I said, there are like few points, like there are like 7, there's a 15, there's like 23rd, and also October 27th, when we have Scorpio new moon, and that kind of like opens doors to strategic alliances. So maybe you're kind of tired of being suppressed, tired of certain things are not going forward. Maybe you have been really direct in some situation, which, you know, for some reason it kind of like feels like, as I said, it kind of like really didn't really work out properly. Now, that privacy, or that kind of like cocoon that I always see here, you know, it's going to be really interesting because, you know, that's when your planet Mars is kind of like forming that square with that cautious Saturn in Capricorn. And that's how that really looks like. It's almost like you have 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. It's just like you're breaking everything up, right? So as much as you want to rush into something, you know, contract or commitment, and you want to pass this finish line, you, again, I'm telling you, it's going to be, you need to deal with something. And this is really good because you have like this 10 of Pentacles in the middle. This is center, this is core of the question, this is answer, right? If you really wish, even though I'm reading these cards a little bit differently. And you see these almost like are the same, except 10 is like with a cherry on the top, and here is just a whipped cream. But like I would not shun this either, right? So there is no cutting corners. There's like something going to be this month that is going to involve family, that is going to involve other people, right? So just make sure, if this is just your business kind of a thing, or career or job, that you're preparing references, that somebody is not going to surprise you with sort of like, oh, well, we just talked to so and so and I don't really think you fit, kind of a thing. You know, when you get this comfort, and I love this card means I am ready. This card needs to happen when you totally feel that you enjoy your solo life before you move into something else, right? And that's going to be happening just before Halloween. And Halloween is like when we enter into Mercury retrograde, and Halloween is like with that moon in Sagittarius that is really coming really close to Jupiter, which basically means that, you know, it might be something unexpected, you know. Jupiter is like, yeah, it's planet of basically justice, right? But it's also a happy planet, right? So you might have new friends, and you might actually have such good times that you will not be able to stop laughing and enjoying your kind of like good times. But you need to also know that there is somebody around you, as I told you, who has ulterior motives, who has something. They have like, I mean, an axe to grind, right? There's like something going on, and something like that is going to resurface. And when we go to the retrograde of Mercury retrograde, October 31st to November 20th. So this is the last Mercury backspin of 2019, and even for this decade, yay! I hate Mercury retrograde. What was happening to me, it's already affecting me because I have Mercury and Uranus very, very strongly in my chart, in basically Virgo, which is also ruled by Mercury. For you guys, an ex may resurface, and this might as well be you, just saying, look, you and me, no, we don't belong together. We don't. You and I kind of like develop certain issues, or somebody might be telling you that, and those issues are really, really hard to marry. It kind of like looks to me, because it's going back to from 10 to 9, and over here as well, you know, you're not crossing here, you're not coming to my country. This is this rune, kind of like what boundaries would be like if I kind of like managed to kind of like put the rune in this kind of like meaning, right? So I really think you're going to almost have a man clearance house. You will have people around you who are possibly dishonest, or who are, you know, kind of like trying to take your territory, or somebody who is like actively trying to hurt you and actively trying to control you. And we know how that's going to work out, right? So keep this in mind, that this month is more or less going to be okay. It's going to feel comfortable, especially in your home, with your buddies, with people who you know. But you will still have to kind of like be very agile. You will really need to know how to go with the wind and how to kind of dodge the bullets in this month. The center is going to be the stability that you have. But you know, you need to kind of like, at any point that something kind of like gets challenged, you need to realize that there has been something already in the past that you had to deal with, and kind of like you can go and revisit those tools. In the future, as I said, think twice before you kind of like do anything, right? Or even think twice before you just decide to say, yeah, I'm going to be with you, etc. Because this is going to be one of these months where people will show you their true face, maybe, you know, through their actions. Maybe this is like to the waiters or something, you not trust them when they tell you who they are, right? You don't have to wait for them to do that to you, because then it really hurts. So there we go. Hopefully this is going to record. And guys, don't forget to also check your ascendant and check your moon sign. All is really important here. And if you want a reading with me, catchtarot.ca, and my information is down in the description box. So I'm looking forward to, guys, catching up with you again, and looking forward to your comments. Love you, and until the next time, all the best.